Hi friends, welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. My name is Heather, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how I completely failed at reading in 2025. I had a very ambitious reading plan for 2025 and it really seemed quite achievable. In the past decade maybe, I have averaged between 36 and 48 novels a year. So I set a goal of 25 books in 2025, and I thought that was a very reasonable number of books. I did not anticipate, first of all, how busy my schedule would be in 2025, but also how much I would change and things would change for me personally. Particularly, I think one of the things that really got to me in 2025 is probably just the natural aging process and an inability to stay awake so I could read in bed at night, which is what I've always done in the past. I'm having an extremely difficult time staying awake long enough to read anything at night, which has pretty much eliminated my being able to read anything at all. I'm having a very hard time finding any other time during the day when I can read consistently from day to day. Getting out of the habit of daily reading at the same time every day has really been problematic for me and made it very difficult for me to not only read consistently in general, but also just to finish books. I'll get started on a book and I'll be really into it and excited at the beginning, and then I just find it so difficult to pick it back up again. I'm going to go through what I did actually read, which is a very interesting mix of things that I did actually finish and things that I did not finish. First of all, I need to say that I did not come anywhere close to my goal for 2025 in reading 25 books. I did not. So this is the first year since I started doing the annual Goodreads reading challenge that I did not achieve my goal for the year, which was quite disappointing. Now, I could go in right now and change my goal for the year and lower it before the end of the year, before they do, because they're going to post the Goodreads reading challenge any day here, and make my goal smaller so that it looks like I achieved my goal. But I do want to stick to the fact that I did set out to read 25 books in 2025, and I did not do that. Now, am I going to set 26 books for 2026? Absolutely not. I am going to be more realistic, but I do want to get more into consistent reading again and be able to read some of the things, because there's lots of books out there that I'm really excited about reading and I really do want to read. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of the same thing that my daughter does, and she basically reads like a book a month. If I set out saying as long as I completed a book in this month, whether I did it faster than that, because maybe it was a new book and I had to read it in 2 weeks or whatever, and I end up with some extras, that would make me feel better than to have this higher goal and not achieve it and feel like I failed. Not reading is not a failure. You should read for enjoyment. You should read what you like to read and what you want to read. But I am actually disappointed in my reading this year because there were a lot of books on my list that I really did want to read and I just couldn't. I just couldn't stay awake, or I just didn't have the time or whatever. So I'm actually kind of disappointed about that. I think I'm going to reduce my goal in 2026 to 12 books. Now, within the booktube space, that's not a lot of books to read, but for the average person, I think that's actually still pretty ambitious. Many, many people out there do not read, whatever huge quantity of books the people on BookTube read or claim to read it every month. They literally must do nothing else. That's all I can think. Even my previous consistent achievements of 36 books a year or 48 books a year now seems quite unattainable to me. And I think the main reason for that is just the change in my life and my lifestyle. One of the things was I used to be a teacher. And so I used to have a lot of opportunity to read during the day while I was at school because my students were reading. And so I could be reading at the same time sometimes. I feel like when I was in an academic atmosphere, it was a lot easier for me to read a lot more, and it just isn't now. So I think I'm going to reduce my goal in 2026 to 12 books, and I'm going to aim to try to finish at least one book a month. If I read more than that, great. but that's what I'm going to try to aim for. And I am going to make a video coming up here soon. I'm going to give you just 12 books that I'm interested in reading in 2026. Those may not be the 12 books I end up reading in 2026, but just to give you kind of a little teaser taste of what I'm thinking about hopefully reading in 2026. But let's look at 2025. All right, what did I read? First of all, I'm going to tell you that there were a lot of books that I listed in my video from last year, which I'll link up here, about the books that I was interested in reading in 2025. Now that list far exceeded 25 books. I think it was about 38 books that were on that list that I was interested in reading in 2025. I read almost none of those. Okay, I maybe read just a few of them. There were many, many books that I did not read that were on that list that I made last year. And I was thinking about making a separate video about that, but I decided not to because it's kind of weird for me to just tell you about all the books I didn't read and why I didn't read them. But there were a lot of books on that list that I ended up not reading, many of which because once I went down and got them at the library or they came in on hold or whatever, when I looked at them again, I just was like, when I actually got them and started to look at them, I maybe got, started to read a chapter or something and I was like, no, I just don't think I'm digging this. I'm not going to read this book. So those I kind of ruled out right away. But there are 8 books on my list here that I did start and make a good start on and did not finish. In some of these cases, I didn't finish because I didn't read the book completely, but I did what I call a skim to the end. So maybe I read a third or half the book and then I just wasn't into it enough or I ran out of time and it had to be back to the library. And so I did kind of skim through it to get the key thing and maybe I read the last couple chapters or something. Here are the books that I started but did not finish. Betrayal at Blackthorn Park. This was the second book, I think, in a series. Yeah. I can't remember what the first book was called now. The first book was about the cabinet war rooms, and I did like that one. But the second one, I just wasn't getting into it. And I think it had been too much of a gap of time between the first book and the second book that I didn't remember stuff from the first book well enough. I kind of generally remembered the characters, but I didn't remember their relationship or the story well enough. And this one was, it was still World War II and they went to this Blackthorn Park, which I think was supposed to be kind of the real thing taking place during World War II in Britain. I can't think of the name of it. But it was so dull. It was so boring. All they did was talk to people sitting in rooms and nothing really was happening and I was getting kind of bored of it. And so I just kind of quit reading it. There was a third book in the series already out by the time I realized that this book had been published, and I was planning on reading that one too, but now I've changed my mind and I'm just giving up on the series. Okay, Message Deleted. I had bought this book, a big hardcover copy, and it really sounded like a cool premise. It sounded like a book that I would really like, where the woman gets a text from her friend's house and she does something really stupid. She literally walks out of a very promising job interview to go check on her friend because her friend says to come over, which I thought was a really dumb thing to do because she really needed that job. And then she gets over there and everything seems fine. Her friend is fine. Her friend's like, I didn't send you a text message. I don't know what you're talking about. And I feel like in this book, there was potential there. They could have done something more with it, but how the author went with it was kind of far-fetched. And right away, I was like, oh, come on. They didn't seem like things that would really happen or the way that people would behave. And so I got kind of annoyed with the book right away and I DNF'd it fairly quickly. So that was money well spent. All right, the third one that I didn't finish was Dear Miss Lake. Now this one was a little bit of a disappointment too. This was the next in the Dear Mrs. Bird series, which I started out really liking. And I don't know which book this was in the series, 3, 4 maybe. Yours Cheerfully was another one. Was there another one in there? I don't know. But I really liked that series at first. And I've kind of been losing interest, with the last book, and it's been kind of getting harder for me to finish the books. And this one I just gave up on because, again, I think it had been too long since I read the other books in the series. and I was just having too difficult a time remembering what had happened before and who everybody was and stuff like that. And so I just gave up. And again, giving up on that series now. Hidden in Smoke. I felt really bad about this, especially after the author, Lee Goldberg, actually commented on 2 of my videos, reviews that I did of his previous books. And I liked the previous book, Ashes Never Lie, so much. It was a really cool crossover between Sharp and Walker and the Eve Ronin series, and I loved it. And then this was the next one, and I just didn't like it at all. I was so bummed. Yeah, it didn't do it for me, and so I gave up on the Sharp and Walker series by Lee Goldberg. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I really liked that one, and I was really into it, and then I can't remember what happened. Like, I just didn't have time, or I just couldn't finish it or whatever. But I really do want to go back and read Just for the Summer because I was really liking it and enjoying it. So I have put that back on my want to read list for 2026. So I have that one and another new Abby Jimenez book that's coming out in 2026 that I want to read. I think it's The Night We Met. Yeah, so watch for that because I want to read both of those. I want to finish Just for the Summer, and I want to read The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. There's still a lot of Abby Jimenez books out there that I probably could go back and read that I haven't read, but I really do like her stuff and I like her books, and so this is one that even though I didn't finish it in 2025, I would like to go back and read it again and actually finish the whole thing. Whiteout. I think this was one of my first books of the year. This was a winter book set in Antarctica, I think. So technically that's a summer book for the Northern Hemisphere, but it was so predictable. I figured out the twist like in the first 15 pages. So I really was kind of annoyed with this book too. Like, oh man, this could have been so good, and what they kind of promised from the book. And this was one that I skimmed and read to the end. I read like the first several chapters, and then I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I know what it is. I know what the thing is. And so I skipped ahead and kind of skimmed through it and got to the end. I'm like, oh yeah, it was exactly what I thought it was. And so that was a little bit of a letdown. There wasn't really any incentive for me to continue reading that book because once I had figured out what the big twist was, there was no surprise. It didn't seem engaging to me anymore, and I just kind of got bored with it. So that's why I didn't finish that one. Penitence. This book, I did read almost all of it. I got almost to the end, but I actually had to stop because it was so dang depressing. I did not like how she took the story. Again, I really feel like this is not necessarily how people would behave. First novel for this author, and I said in my review of it that I would be interested to read other books if this author writes other things in the future, because I think the author has great potential and she was a good writer. But the story just bummed me out so much, and this was another one that I read early on in the year. It really bummed me out, and I found it very depressing, and I just decided I didn't want to finish it. I mean, and this one, again, I did skim to the end, and I did read the last few chapters, so I technically did kind of read the whole thing, and I did feel like I had read enough to give it a rating. It just didn't do it for me. I mean, it was a well-written book, and I think the author has talent. I did not like the story. It made me very uncomfortable and depressed. And then No One Saw a Thing. I did a whole review on this one too, and I did give the author, Andrea Mara, another chance. Same thing happened again. Also in 2025, I read 3 nonfiction books, which I did not review on my channel. And the reason for this is that I basically read these for personal reasons and not necessarily just because I wanted to read the book or wanted to review it or anything. But I am counting this toward my total, and I'm going to make my total for 2025 actually is 10. So I only actually completed 10 books in 2025, but 3 of them were these nonfiction books that I read, which I did not review on the channel. One was Brilliant Maps. This was really interesting. I love geography. It was very colorful, and it was all about different maps and different creative stuff. So I would highly recommend that book. I think I did rate it on Goodreads. I gave it like a 4 or 5. It's Not You. This is a book by Dr. Ramani Diversala, I think is how you say her last name. I'm a big fan of Dr. Ramani. I have some personal reasons for being a fan of Dr. Ramani. She is the foremost authority on narcissism and narcissistic and toxic relationships. And she works out of Southern California, USC or UCLA, one of those. She's also a therapist, and she's been incredibly helpful to me in healing from some past relationships that were very traumatic and difficult for me. I continue to watch her YouTube videos. She does a daily YouTube video on YouTube, and this was her new book, kind of the big Bible guidebook about narcissistic relationships. And so I read this actually with someone else for both of us dealing with relationships like this that we've had to deal with in the past. So I would highly recommend that one too if you are dealing with a narcissistic or toxic person in a relationship, whether it be, you know, a friend, a family member, a boss, a spouse, whatever. She has everything in there. The Art of Loving by Eric Fromm, I think it was. It's an old book, like really old, like 1800s old, I think. Yeah, if I remember right. But this was something that someone in my life wanted to read and was reading, and I said that I would read it with them. And interestingly, I ended up reading the whole book, and my friend did not. Did not finish it. But I was able to share what I read and learned a little bit with them. So it was an interesting read because it was quite, I don't know what word I'm looking for, like provocative in a way to read some of the viewpoints of the time back then. Some things were very timeless, but other things were kind of like, whoa, you know, so that was something else that I read in 2025. Okay, now for novels that I actually completed in 2025, there were 7 for sure. The Wrong Sister. Okay, I read this one pretty early in the year. I read the entire book. I liked it fine. I don't know, I think I gave it, see, like I didn't look at this before. I should have put my ratings down here, but you can go back. If I completed these books, all of the ones on this list are the ones that I completed, I had done full video reviews of. So you can find the reviews on my channel and you can hear what I thought of the book at the time and what I rated it. Okay, so all of those are on the channel earlier in the year. So The Wrong Sister was in the first like 3 months of the year, I think. Is She Really Going Out with Him by Sophie Cousins. I loved that book. I think I read it in February or March. It was early in the year too, and I really, really liked it. This was probably even more of a favorite for me by Sophie Cousins than I Just Haven't Met You Yet. Both of which have kind of clever titles within the book. And like when you realize what the title actually means when you're reading the book, you're like, oh, because it's not necessarily what you think it means. Both of these first two, The Wrong Sister and Is She Really Going Out with Him, were set in England, in the UK. So, which I'm a huge fan of. I'm a big Anglophile, love everything in the UK. So I really like those for those reasons. I'm pretty sure I gave Is She Really Going Out with Him like 5 stars. Then The Rom-Commers. This was the latest book by Catherine Center. I did like it. I did not like it as much as the previous Catherine Center book, maybe. And I haven't found anything in Catherine Center's newer stuff that I liked as much as the first books I read by her, which were What Do You Save in a Fire, How to Walk Away. Those from that time period are still my favorites. And I liked this one fine, but I know there was something else recent that I liked better. Catherine Center also does have a new book coming out in 2026, The Shippers, which I am planning on reading, so watch for my review of that when that comes out. Okay, then I read A Deception at Thorncrest. This was the latest book and the last book in she wrapped up the series then. Now this series was older and I needed to finish it. You know, I hadn't quite finished it. She had a whole nother series after that, which I'm coming to. But this was a nice wrap up to the series, to the Milo and Amory Ames mystery series. That's what it is. Deception at Thorncrest, and I liked it a lot. Okay, then One Final Turn. That was the next one that I finished, and that was also the 5th and final book in the Electra McDonnell mystery series, also by Ashley Weaver. So Ashley Weaver had actually finished the Milo and Amory Ames mystery series, but I didn't discover the Milo and Amory Ames mystery series until after I had read the first 1 or 2 books in the Electra McDonnell series. And while I was waiting for the subsequent books to come out in the series, I went back and saw that Ashley Weaver had these other books in this other series, and so then I read those. But there's more in that series, so that series took me longer to complete. But I liked them both very much. Again, these are all British. Although the author in this case is American. So that's kind of interesting. The Love Haters. Oh, right. The Love Haters was the next Catherine Center book, which I liked better than the Rom-Commers. That's what it was. So the Rom-Commers came out first, and I think I was reading it kind of late, so that might have actually come out in 2024, I think. The Love Haters was her book that came out in 2025, and I liked The Love Haters better than the Rom-Commers. I remember that now. Okay, and then the last book that I completely finished in 2025 was Homicide in the Indian Hills, which is by Erica Ruth Neubauer and is the latest in that series of books, which is I can't remember what the series is called, but I did a whole review. Again, all of these books that I finished, I did whole reviews on my channel, and I liked that one a lot too. I have tried to read many other books throughout the year. In addition to the first ones that I said I did not finish, there have been books since Homicide in the Indian Hills, I think, that I did not finish. But I still might have made videos. Yeah, I think there were at least 2. I think there was another Lee Goldberg, the latest in the Eve Ronan mystery series, that I did not finish. And I said I'm giving up on the Eve Ronan series now. And then there was one more book after that. It's going to be the previous book video in my book reviews. That's what happened in 2025. I ended up only reading 10 books completely. 3 of them were nonfiction books. So this was kind of really not a great reading year for me as a whole. I definitely enjoyed the books that I read. I would say of the ones that I finished, the only one that I didn't really like a lot was probably The Wrong Sister by Claire Douglas. That's who it is. Otherwise, I liked all of the other books on this list that I finished quite a bit, and that's probably why I was able to finish them, because I liked them more than the other stuff I tried to read. I definitely did not like, except with the exception of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which I do want to go back and completely read in 2026. I didn't like anything else on my DNF list, or the many books that I looked at, picked up, or had on that big list that I was planning to read in 2025. I kind of ruled all of those out. So that's what happened with me with reading in 2025. Did you read any of these books in 2025? Are there any of the books on the do not finish list that I listed that you did finish the entire book in 2025 and that you had maybe a more favorable opinion of it than I did? Or that you agree with me and say, yeah, that was tough to get through, or I didn't finish it either, or whatever. Let me know what you think. How many books did you read in 2025? Were you happy with your reading in 2025? Let me know all of that in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.